But now let's hear from the other side. Democratic Congressman Sherman is also on the Finance Committee. Congressman, you just listened to your committee chair. He's wrong.
Well, John, I know you oppose reauthorizing the EXIM Bank, and so does Jeb. So you have two people on one side, one on the other. But the argument for extending the EXIM Bank is more than twice as good, so it is a fair fight. The fact is that we don't live in the novels of Ayn Rand. You can live in The Fountainhead, you can live in Atlas Shrugged. There's no EXIM Bank in those books. But also in those books, Germany doesn't have an EXIM Bank, Japan doesn't have an EXIM Bank, China doesn't have one, and neither does South Korea. What we're talking about here is unilateral military disarmament. Now, I watch Fox a lot, and I see Democrats accused of unilateral disarmament. This is the first time that Republicans are so anxious to engage in it. If we don't promote exports, buyers are smart, and they'll go not necessarily for the best product, but for the best financing.
So if other countries are jumping off a bridge, we should jump off a bridge? Isn't this what our parents warned us against?
This isn't jumping off a bridge. Germany, for example, has an EXIM Bank 3 times as large as ours.
It just steals from taxpayers.
3 times as large as ours.
Steals 3 times as much.
Their economy is doing much better than ours. Their manufacturing workers making more than ours, and they are not running the huge trade deficit. You know, Jeb talked about that the national debt that he keeps a clock running on. He wants to cut taxes. That increases the national debt. Then he wants to get rid of EXIM Bank. That increases the national debt because EXIM Bank makes money for the taxpayer and returns the money to the Treasury. And the only way he can erase that
Fannie
is to say
and Freddie made money until they didn't. The flood insurance program made money until it didn't.
The difference there is that you've got a fair reserve calculated by the Congressional Budget Office for any risks that are assumed, and then you can look over a period of time as transactions are completed, and you see that the fees charged by EXIM Bank make a profit for the taxpayer. We're talking hundreds of thousands of jobs. Every industrialized country in the world says this is the way to get jobs. We've got the largest trade deficit in the world. Germany has one of the largest surpluses in the world. Which do you want to imitate?
If this is the way to get jobs, why are you so cheap? Why don't we triple the size of the EXIM Bank and subsidize all kinds of people? Why don't we pay to sell ice to Eskimos?
I don't think we can make money by selling ice to Eskimos. The EXIM Bank is not subsidized. It subsidizes the Treasury. It subsidizes the loss of in the Treasury for all those loopholes that you want to keep going with. I think the EXIM Bank should get a bit bigger. I don't think it has to get that. And ultimately, though,
but if it's so good, why not make it much bigger?
What we need to do is negotiate with the Europeans to shrink theirs and ours simultaneously. The only way you get disarmament is you go into talks with arms. You don't disarm first, sing kumbaya, and then beg the other side to disarm. Not even George McGovern proposed that in arms control, and I don't think you should propose it when it comes to controlling the efforts of foreign governments to subsidize their exports.
So that's your goal. If we keep ours, maybe we can get rid of theirs, and then we could get rid of the EXIM Bank?
We are in negotiations now to downscale and eliminate export authorities of this type. They'll be difficult negotiations, but if we throw away EXIM before we go into those negotiations, you can guarantee failure.
Now, Congressman, you cite the companies that get help, but what about the side effects? When you help Boeing sell a plane to a foreign airline, you do give that airline a special break, and that hurts Americans who work for, say, Delta. Here's what Delta's CEO said at your hearing.
Well, Delta.
A prime example is Air India, a government-owned, government-subsidized airline that drove us out of the marketplace with $1 billion of EXIM Bank financing. That cost about 1,000 jobs.
If I can get a word in here...
You're taking 1,000 jobs.
If I can get a word in here, Delta gets benefits from the Canadian EXIM Bank to buy Canadian aircraft. So when Delta is deciding whether to buy the Canadian aircraft the European or the American aircraft. They look for the best financing package. So how are we going to be able to sell our planes abroad if even Delta Airlines is looking for export financing?
So how is this free
They didn't
enterprise?
tell you that, did they?
This is crony
The
capitalism.
way we live in an imperfect world, John.
Right,
we live
that
in a
note,
world
thank you,
where
Congressman
China has
Sherman.
a
We're out
much
of
larger
time.
Ex-Im bank than we do.
Now, you at home, what do you think? Keep the bank?